Hola amigos, hola amigas, welcome, bienvenido, croeso y salam, welcome to the channel y'all, Cheshniak Shimash, good day y'all. So this car, now this model is the 4x4 Fiat 125, but it was really hard to get the actual car that my dad once owned in the 1980s, because his was the FSO 125P, P standing for Made in Poland. My dad had 3 of these cars in this estate version. He had one in this color cream, he had one in blue, and then finally he had one in red, all estates. This car I had to buy in this form because I could not find it in a bog standard car form. But this is the 4x4 version, but like I said, his wasn't the 4x4, it was just the car version. So the first thing we need to do is to get it out of the packaging. Okay, so let's get this out of the packing. There we go. Yeah, it's a die-cast model. It's more of a toy than anything else, and you can see why it's a 4x4 being raised up here. I guess there could be a way of modifying this to make it just as what the car version was of my dad's, but I don't really have the knowledge of that. So for this video purpose, this is absolutely fine as it is. So let's get you guys a little bit closer and let's have a chat about it. I don't know why it's leaning. Oh, it's 4x4 crunch. So here we have, in my case, is the FSO 125P estate version. Like I said, my dad had 3 of these in succession during the 80s. And they were very, very dated technology-wise and body-wise and everything for its time. They dated back to like the 60s technology that really didn't change that much. They did add extra features onto it for the export models, which were sold in the UK. This came in a 4-door estate, 4-door saloon, but it was the estate version that we had. I do remember the last one we had, the red one. My dad found this lever underneath the steering wheel that if he pulled it would hold the car like an early form of cruise control. I mean, it wouldn't sort of like speed up and slow, whatever, or obviously not change gears or anything itself, but it was a very early form of sort of like, that doesn't look right, but it did actually work. If you pulled the lever, if you stuck to a speed, pulled this something underneath the steering column, the car would stay in that speed for as long as, if the inclination went up or down or whatever, then he'd have to push it back and then he would take over then. But yeah, very, very funny. 2 incidents I can remember in the car with my dad. He loved this car. He loved Fiat engines, and the thing about it was very, very cheap, and there was so much room on the inside. When we used to go camping, when we used to go down the caravan or this, that and the other, it was amazing because you could chuck everything into it and us, and then just mosey on down to 10B or wherever we went in the car and camping and caravanning. And it was absolutely fantastic. It never let my dad down. In the winter time when there was snow, it would always start with the Fiat engine. He never had any issues with it, apart from they were sort of like they would rot very, very quickly. The red one, as I got a bit older, that was the last one he had, I used to go out there and wax it and polish it, and it would always look really nice by the end of it. And I always liked those 4 lights at the front because they did kind of remind me of an early Range Rover kind of thing, and my mind back then and wherever. But yeah, I really did like this car and have so many fond memories of us driving around 10B and Pembroke and all the places in this car. Lots of fond memories. I remember one time we were driving up these lanes and my mother just happened to sort of like glance, and it was an opening and it was to a farm and there were loads of chickens, but all the chickens were sort of like still. And my mother said, look, kids, rubber chickens, and pointed. And instead of my dad driving, ignoring my mother, he turned his head too, wasn't paying attention, and we went kind of like up the bank and down again. Boom, 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 boom. Thank goodness my mum had seat belts put in on the back. But I remember my sister had this packet of Dib Dab dip-in sherbet with a lolly, and that's all I remember is my sister's sherbet flying up into the air and going everywhere. Yeah, and then another time he wasn't paying attention. This was down in the Mumbles, or down in the Gower somewhere. And there was huge traffic jams in the summer going down the Mumbles, going down the Gower. It's an absolute nightmare. And we were driving along really, really slow. And the bus driver on the opposite side said something like, oh, there's bloody traffic. And my dad said, yeah, I know, it's an absolute nightmare. Wasn't paying attention to what he was doing. And there were big like stones, rocks, as sort of like markers on the other side of the road. And one of them had like a smooth side up and then a sharp dip. So my dad, just like you would in a sort of like a ramp to lift the car, went lovely up and down, up onto this rock, came off and went clunk. And then we were stuck there, and people had to come out of the bus, and other people, people in the traffic, got out to help lift my dad's car off the rock. It was so embarrassing, but yeah, lots of fun. So there is a lot of history around this car. So let me have a look and see where I can find, and let's just get some basics about it. The Polski Fiat 125P is a motor vehicle manufactured between 1967 and 1991 in the People's Republic of Poland, 1968 to 1990, and the Republic of Poland, 1990 to 1991, by the state-owned manufacturer. Now I'm going to be rubbish at pronouncing this. Fabryka Samochodu Osobowicz FSO, under the license agreement with Fiat. It was a simplified variation of the Fiat 125 with engines and mechanicals from the Fiat 1300-1500. To distinguish between the models, Fiat and FSO revived the mark Polski Fiat. After the termination of the license agreement, the car was also branded as the FSO 1300, FSO 1500 or FSO 125P. So like I said, production was from 1967 to 1991, and it was assembled in Poland, in Warsaw, Cairo, Yugoslavia, or the former Yugoslavia, Colombia, Thailand and Indonesia. It's classed as a large family car, and there we go, it comes as a 4-door sedan, 5-door station wagon or the 2-door pickup. In the 1960s, the only passenger car manufacturer in socialist Poland was the FSO in Warsaw, which manufactured the dated Serena small car and the Warsauza, a large model whose roots could be traced back to the 1940s. Even within the realities of a centrally planned socialist economy, the need for a replacement was felt, although Warsauza-based replacements had been under development within the FSO, and authorities decided to pursue talks with the Italian Fiat, which was seeking to expand its international presence by establishing production in the countries of the Eastern Bloc. On the 22nd of December 1965, a license agreement was signed concerning manufacturing of intermediate-sized cars in Poland. The automobile concerned was a model specially devised for production in Poland, combining the body and braking system of the newly launched Fiat 125, with the driveline and other chassis elements from the retired Fiat 13 and 1500. The FSO plant had to be refurbished to be able to handle the assembly of a modern car, so machinery was ordered from Western companies. FSO's over 100 Polish suppliers were also involved in the effort, as well as other manufacturers from the Eastern European assembly Fiat license models Krvna, Zastava works in Yugoslavia, and the newly organized VAZ in the Soviet Union. The production preparation process took almost 2 years, with the assembly of pre-production test series from parts imported from Italy commencing on the 28th of November 1967. By the end of the year, 75 such cars had been assembled. Unlike the Fiat 125, the car was also available as an estate 125p Combi, introduced in 72, and as a pickup developed in Poland after the Italian Fiat 125 production ended in 1972. The estate won the 1978 Estate Car of the Year award in the United Kingdom. There was a minor restyling in 1973 when the chrome front grille was replaced with a black plastic one, and in 1975 when a new black plastic grille arrived along with new turn indicators, enlarged horizontal rear lamps instead of pairs of thin vertical ones, and a slightly modernized interior. A new plastic dashboard and steering wheel, hubcaps featuring modern stamped patterns, new bumpers with horizontal strips of rubber which replaced paired vertical guards. The power of both engines was also raised by 7.3 from 1983. The car was produced as the FSO 125p, 15 and 1300. In the late 1980s, the 125p received its last upgrade in the form of a powertrain from the FSO Polonaise and a new instrument cluster featuring round gauges in place of the classic Fiat speedometer. The car was produced until 26th of June 1991 to fulfill factory pre-production sales obligation. The communist prepayment system, in total, 1,445,689 cars were manufactured by that time. The design was 24 years old and used mechanicals which were essentially 30 years old, with only minor improvements. In the UK and Ireland, where it had been available in right-hand drive since 1975, the Polski Fiat had been the cheapest car on the market for some time, £3,099 in late 1991. It retained 1960s styling, durable but comfortable leatherette seats and cavernous amounts of space. Mechanically, the 125p was rugged and reliable. Also, the car's performance was less than that of the Italian 125, and its handling capabilities came nowhere close to those of the original design. It also suffered from a very rough ride due to the leaf-sprung rear suspension layout. Not even the bargain basement prices could disguise the outdated drivetrain. By the time of the car's demise, the larger Riva itself, derived from the Fiat 124, was the only similar Eastern European car available in the UK. Skoda had abandoned its range of rear-engine saloons and coupes in favour of modern front-engine hatchbacks. Zastava only offered the Yugo, and the East German Wartbugs were no longer available. So there were hundreds of thousands of these cars made during their production. And I remember going to the FSO garage in Swansea, and they had all these lovely posters up of the FSO, and they also had the Polonaise as well. Other family members did have a Polonaise, which I will reveal at some point in another video, because I have a model of that car as well. And you can definitely have a good laugh. So even though these were renowned as being the cheapest car in the UK with 1960s mechanics and leaf spring suspension and everything, like it said, they were very rugged and the engines were very reliable. It was the bodywork that let it down. They just rusted incredibly. The paintwork on them was appalling. You can still see loads of these available driving in Poland and other Eastern European countries even today. If you watch any dash cam videos that are made sort of like in Poland and in Russia and other parts, you will see these cars still driving around to this very day, held together with what I can only imagine would be sticky tape and filler and maybe thick porridge. I don't know. When these cars have a crash, if you see them in the dash cam, they just disintegrate. You don't stand a chance in one of these if you have a crash. If you're going at 60 miles an hour and hit a brick wall, the only thing left would be the rear lights. The whole thing is made of crimpolene. But I have fond memories of these cars, and I really wanted to share it with you. So I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.